Hi, my name is Renee Phillips, and I'm a resident artist at the Arts Warehouse in Delray Beach, Florida. I'm a color and process artist. Welcome to my studio. The magic in art creation for me is the connection I have with nature. I go to the beach, I go for walks, and I can really process creative ideas there. I'm working on a painting, I go for a walk, I see the tides moving in and out, the natural rhythms of the natural world, the cycles of nature, colors of the bright yellow flowers against the brown background, against the cobalt blue sky. All these things integrate into my brain, and sometimes I think I'm just a vessel for creating man-made color compositions of the natural world. I study color, I study form, I often look at aerial images of Earth. I study something called the overview effect, which is a profound experience astronauts have when viewing Earth from above. They say it completely changes their view of existence and their spiritual growth into their presence of being here. So I really want to tap into the natural world, our presence within the natural world through the language of color. So I find meditative walking to be extremely helpful throughout my process. Sometimes I'll pour paint and spray paint and immediately go on a walk to process the ideas. Also, my pouring process takes hours and days to cure, so it allows me to step away from the painting and give it the time it needs to cure while also creatively processing what colors I want to layer on next. All of my paintings are a layering process to build up texture and form and color, and then manipulate those layers with the elements of wind, water, heat, and gravity. So it's kind of this process of diving into color and form and then stepping away from it through walking, really. I find so much of my creative, out-of-the-box thinking happens while I'm moving. I paint by moving around the canvas. It's almost like a dance with color and paint for me. And then I go on walks and I process those movements that I did on the canvas. So I'll do it daily almost whenever I'm painting. And then I'll go on hikes, I'll go to the beach. I really want to get as much information from the natural world as I can to inform the colors and the compositions that I choose. I began experimenting with latex and spray paint about 8 years ago, and quickly realized that it was doing things I hadn't learned or had done before in school, and if I didn't write it down, then I may not be able to get that same reticulated spray paint effect or texture. I also found that every color did something different. So I needed to write down exactly the mixture of colors, the time it was poured, the temperature and humidity level, what color came on top of it. So I really dug into creating a color journal, noting the time, temperature, humidity, the size, the color mixture. And this is now my art Bible, really. I've always felt that my paintings are alive. The way I start a painting is I see colors kind of coming together in my mind's eye, and they're moving and they're weaving and they're waves of aura colors. And so when NFTs became popular last year, I really dug deep into learning about video animation, NFTs, and started to shift my art towards allowing some of my forms to really come alive. This piece you see behind me, it's called Energy Patterns, and it's a direct result of some of the NFT work I did earlier in the year. I see the forms exactly like energy patterns, moving and flowing together, almost like macro or micro images of Earth or cellular forms. When I dove deep into animating my paintings, what I loved most about it was how it expanded my mind. It wasn't necessarily the NFT process that I was so enthralled with. It was how it had allowed me to finally see my paintings off of the canvas, to see them come alive in a different, unique format. And it's really expanded my mind in what's possible back on the canvas. So it's really shifted my perspective and my compositional forms, the colors I choose, the color palettes that work. So I really like the way that NFTs have changed the way I think about my physical paintings. This is where I keep my meditation color studies. I have hundreds of colors and hundreds of studies that showcase what that color wants to do, the ripple it wants to give me, the wave it wants to give me, so I can then translate that texture onto larger canvases. This year I took a month to deep dive into specific colors, and I started with the color pink. It is historically not one of my favorite colors and not a color I use very often. I preferred a coral color of the pink, but pink is my daughter's favorite color. So it must have something special to it. And I realized how special it was very quickly in working with pink, specifically how it highlights other colors like deep peacock green or the sunrise yellow that you see. Pink is an exceptional color for channeling emotion and highlighting other colors and really creating a mood. And that's why I love color so much.
So prior to your daughter enjoying the color, was it really part of your palette much?
You're my pink lover. Pink was never part of my palette because I'm a redhead, and historically redheads don't look good in pink. So I kind of create art that works with my color palette, I find. I mean, I grew up in Florida, so the color palette here is it's full color, it's saturated. I also grew up in the 90s where there was MTV that was like bright colors and fun and high energy and new music, loud music. And so the color palette that I use really reflects not only my environment of Florida, but the sights, the sounds, the smells that I grew up in and that I continue to love so much, because I find that when we surround ourselves with specific colors, it can really change our mood and our perspective. And I feel like that's part of my process, is really helping people surround themselves with colors that are going to elevate them. All right, this is the mixing table where the magic happens, where I mix all my paintings, peel my paintings off. Adding some thickeners and some polymers, because what I am trying to do is create paintings with just paint and no substrate.
Do you find you like using some paint brands more than others, or not necessarily?
Yes, I have studied all the paint brands. Faro and Ball is wonderful and the pigments are lush, but it's almost too made of natural pigmentation, so it wants to dry as flat as possible and does not give me any texture. I find that the plastics and polymers in the Bear brand and Sherwin-Williams are best for what I want, and the satin finish. The finish is the most important part. I can get different things out of a satin finish than a matte finish.
Yes.
So it's fun to play around with one color, and test the textural results. It's fun to play with one color and the textural results from matte to semi-gloss and gloss. I'm gonna add a little bit more pink. I have to open up a new bottle.
So how long you been here?
So the Arts Warehouse is a residency program that lasts 4 years, and I've been here 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I've found a wonderful community from the Arts Warehouse residency. That's definitely been the best part, is connecting with the community of like-minded artists to have dialogue and grow our practice, have friends, you know, push the bounds together, collaborate. It's been really wonderful.
It is a very nice place.
Yeah, it's, you know, nice people. Okay, here we go.
What's this liquid you?
So this is a polymer medium. This thickens my paint and gives a little bit more plastic, so I can peel it off of the plastic paint. It's also a gloss. This is a thickener. So it is a little bit like cooking.
Yes.
Sometimes I add mediums to the paint, and sometimes I just pour the paint straight after mixing the color.
What would you say is the best part of what you're doing? If you had to pick one part.
The best part is, I think when I'm physically pouring and spraying, I just get into the flow, and all time doesn't exist. And I really feel it's a really profound experience to be creating something. That's the best part, getting in the flow. What's the best part for you?
Not planning too much.
Oh yeah.
Because I find myself, when I oversketch in the beginning,
Yeah.
then I always have mixed feelings of the end result.
Yeah.
I feel when I just have a little preparation and just let the process move,
Yeah.
that's what I enjoy the most.
I can feel you on that. All right, so this is a new pink. So while digging into the pinks, I'll need to note the mixture I used. Okay. You ready for this? Good?
Yes, we're good.
I'm gonna try and tilt it a little bit. Right, this way.
Why did you add the purple accent to it?
So I want to show how pink can change the emotional resonance you have to it by just adding different highlight colors. So I'm going to be showing pink with combinations of purple, and then with combinations of green, and then in darker shades of red.
What does this shape look like to you?
It is it's the epitome of a pink drip. It's like when I watch the paint drip off of my canvas, I wanted that to be in an extra, extra large format and not on a substrate, so it's just the paint drip itself hanging from the ceiling. All right, then we're gonna take everything out and have a spray paint party. All right, we're gonna give it a little break, like a 2-minute break, and then I'm gonna tilt it. All right, I'm gonna tilt it.
Okay, you're tilting?
Yep. I'm gonna tilt it this way, and this paint is gonna kind of like start to break apart. It'll look real cool.
Okay, we're recording.
I'm gonna tilt it that way now.
As you were tilting it, it brought me back to the beach this morning.
Yes.
As you were tilting it, that is the waves that we were seeing.
Totally. It's so, I'm aiming to get textures inspired by the surface of Earth, rather that be layers of rock formations, the tides coming in and out. That's why in order for me to get inspired, I have to go into nature. It's almost like I'm channeling through man-made elements, nature's life cycles and layers with paint and spray paint. So now that the top layer of spray paint has cured a little bit, I go in and do another layer. This helps get more textural effects.
As you had mentioned, layers. As I'm watching you do this, it's almost like different rock formation in the earth, you know? 2,000 years ago, we're not seeing
exactly
the same layer of earth.
Like the pink is the core, and then the spray paint is the mantle and the crust.
Now, when you are doing this, do you have an image in your mind you are looking to capture, or is it both?
It's a little bit of both. There's going to be a good paint drip going down here.
I see it. It's beautiful.
It's not on my canvas, unfortunately. It's on your mic cord.
It's okay. It's okay.
Okay.
The viewers will see.
I'm going to tilt it this way.
What's the most amount of layers have you added to one of your pieces?
One of my pieces took 3 years of layers because sometimes the paint was so thick it would take a month to cure. So some pieces have, 20, 30 layers on them. and they're very heavy and use quite a bit of paint. Poured a piece about a month ago over here. This is working with the same pink base layer, but shades of magenta and deep purple. And it's not quite cured, but it will be peeled off eventually. And it will be hanging from the ceiling.
To me, art is a continuous rediscovery into self. It's a processing of the natural world and all of the sensory experiences I take in. I use color as my raw material, and my body as a channel to manipulate paint and materials into the textural compositions.
So here we are, we're about to wrap this up. We have discussed many things. One thing we haven't discussed yet is when you had first started, when did your work become where it is now? What was the catalyst that drove it to this place where it is now?
I was always interested in the alchemy of materials. I was in a bit of a career change when I was 30 years old and found myself wandering into the Boca Museum of Art School and met a woman named Edie Lampisona who started teaching me alchemical techniques that I did not learn in art school. And it really opened my eyes to the possibility of experimentation and working without a paintbrush and creating paintings without traditional methods. She showed me how to mix oil paint with latex paint and do things I hadn't done before with color and material, with papers, polymer, spray paint. Anything I wanted could be incorporated into the painting. And that really set me off on a different trajectory of experimenting to find my own process. For 3 years, I experimented in the studio playing with color, paint, latex paint, enamel paint, acrylic paint, gesso, seeing how when I layered them and manipulated them with the natural elements, which has always been a huge inspiration for me, the natural world, watching the cycles of life, the water, the wind, how they manipulate paint outside or inside, really became at the core of my practice. So the process of art making with the elements of nature and the added layer of colors doing different things, finding out that pink did something vastly different than green under the same temperature and humidity and manipulated with the same level of wind and gravity, each color did something different. One had soft ripples and one had big undulating waves. And so finding out that color had a personality was extremely exciting. And that's what really set me down the path of studying color in the studio on a daily basis, and figuring out that with one color I could get shadows and light and create texture with a monochromatic palette that told an entirely different story. And so that was part of the process of getting me to where I'm at today, is dialing down on focusing on just one color and seeing textures and the layers and the light and shadow that I could get out of one color and pushing it to its limits. Now I'm working with color as just the raw material. I find that we can speak an entirely new language with just color, and I just want to use paint as the medium itself. So I'm working with paint and polymers and color to create a textural story that we'll see where it takes us.